climate change. Back home also, we are facing another heat. And this is a story we've been putting tails on as far as the school ASIN is concerned. And we want now to also rope in the chairman of KUPPET, Honorable Omboko Milemba, to give us an inside scoop of what is happening currently, and just to also update us on what remedial measures they're coming up with as far as this sector is concerned. Good morning to you, Honorable Milemba. And just a quick one, first off, the bat is a question on, we've heard of bugbears also, and recommendations, bugbears and fears from head school teachers as well, who are recommending that, well, let's face it, let's have school closure right now. Do you think this is the right move to make?
Thank you. Good morning. I don't think that the correct decision is to close schools because we lost sometimes during COVID. And I think the correct thing is that if there's some pressure within our schools, is to just have a half-term. Because originally the Minister of Education had promised that there will be no half-term this term. But let's just give half-term, and then the students can take a break. The parents can be involved in counseling, and the community generally, after which the students can go back to school. So we don't advocate for closure of schools because we know what is ahead of that, but we propose that an half-term be given for 5 days, after which the schools will just continue. But that will be the short-term measure. The long-term measure, like we have always said as KUPPET, is to as much as possible do away with the boarding schools. Why are students banning the dormitories? You did not hear that they banned a class or a laboratory, but they banned the dormitory everywhere. So the problem in the house is the boarding schools. And I think moving forward is high time the Minister of Education beat the bullet and we do away with the boarding schools so that our students can go to school and go back home. So that care of the students is in charge of both the teachers, the community, the government, and the parents back at home.
Mheshimiwa, from your own assessment, what do you think is escalating and exacerbating this particular, a rise of all the cases of flare-ups in school right now?
There's certainly pressure, and that's why we are calling for half-term. It is pressure that built during the first term and the closure of schools for a very short term, and then picking up immediately. So the students have not had enough rest, and that's why they are actually having that action-reaction. And believe me, it's just pressure for education, for learning, and that's why we need just a short break and we come back. There's nothing extraordinary because second term always throughout the years, if you think in retrospect, has been characterized by such incidences, but not to this level of magnitude. The pressure is so high because there was no long stay home. So we just mitigate by giving them a break, and then they'll come back, they'll continue. Our students are good people, and if we ease the pressure, they'll continue their education.
You know, we're living in torrid times right now, so as far as the COVID-19 pandemic is concerned. Do you think in any way this is remotely connected to what is happening right now? You're talking of pressure. Has this also escalated the pressure?
Thank you very much. In fact, is a post-COVID or is a part of the COVID effect. Do you know that in those schools, why even we are having this, is that the infrastructure are not there, and the population in the schools are high. The students are queuing for water, the students are queuing for toilets, the students are queuing for food, the students are queuing for classes, the students are virtually queuing for everything. The number of students in our schools vis-a-vis the infrastructural development in our schools is not matched, and that's why we have this high pressure. And as you have actually said, it is because we are coming out of COVID and we have so many students in schools. It will worsen if we don't take precautionary measures. When we have the double intake to Form 1, it will be worse. So these are just signs of the times that need serious leaders within the ministry, stakeholders. We are reluctant to really speak a lot because formally, as unions would advise the ministry, and the ministry will take us as bad boys. and sometimes even think that we are the ones who are behind such incidences. But now I can see the same thing is still going on. So we need a serious decision by the Minister of Education to make a drastic decision, like we do away with the boarding schools, even if it means in phases, so that we ease the pressure in some of our schools. Thank you.
So I hear you talking about infrastructure. I hear you talking about them lining up for food. And to me, it sounds like, you know, a band-aid solution, because I think the problem is culminating or, going way deeper as far as the eyes are concerned, because they need a psychosocial support. I would expect to hear from Kupet that you can bring up a raft of measures to advocate for psychosocial support aside from infrastructure. Yes, it's good, it's compelling, but that is not the niggling worry.
Very well. We as Kupet had a paper when we did a strategic research and gave a report to the Ministry of Education on a raft of measures that could be undertaken in order to control the school fires. That report is within the ministry, is with us, and is lying on the shelves. So unless you have a ministry that is listening to stakeholders like Kupet, it is very difficult to put in your input and is considered. When we are having a ministry that believes that they know it all, and therefore all other players don't have any information to give, then it's difficult. So let me give you just an example of some of the measures we put in that particular report. That there was need for every school to have GNC, guidance and counseling. And we wanted guidance and counseling to be mainstreamed. And the guidance and counseling officers or teachers to be well trained and employed by the Teachers Service Commission. That has not happened. And therefore, we have given such a raft of measures that could be undertaken by the ministry, but the ministry has not actualized them. At the end of the day, the buck stops with the ministry, because they are the ones to actualize. And also let them listen to a number of stakeholders who will give their opinion and sort out which one can work. But currently, the way the ministry runs, it is a one-man show, my friend.
Right. Thank you very much, Honorable Milemba Omboko there, just priming us on what is happening as far as the school unrest is concerned. And they've taken measures to make sure that, yes, that also is